And, spring ball is right around the corner. I mean, it's right around the corner. They're going to start next week. It's coming up. And the coaches actually talked to the media for the first time in quite a while on Friday.
Yeah.
And we got to hear for a lot of these guys for the first time, specifically Matt Patricia, who has not been with the program previously, and Tyler Bowen, who, again, was an outside hire as the offensive line coach. So I was interested to hear your thoughts on Patricia specifically, because I know you and I disagree on the hire and whether or not it's going to be something that's good. So what are your thoughts on, Patricia talking to the media?
I'm sold. I think he's going to be a really good hire for Ohio State. I think, hey, buddy, I think that Ryan Day made the right decision. A few things. His pass with Tim Walton, I think, is very important in terms of scheme, in terms of what we do as a team on defense. Of course, Matt Patricia, his expertise being in the front seven, defensive line linebackers, and Coach Walt, his being in the secondary. So I think that's really good. Coach Walt also said to that, he said there are some, like, language-wise, there are some things that he says that Matt Patricia says. So he said, like, that helps out very well for them. Smart. Awesome move right there on that. Also, what I have right here, how his defense utilizes the players depending on the defense they have to run or the offense they're playing. Of course, we got the news about oh my God, about good grief, linebacker that CJ Hicks. Thank you, I got myself.
Yeah,
CJ Hicks, so you can use like that, and I think there's players like him, Edric Houston, Caleb Downs, going to be very important to this defense and them being very multiple, them doing a lot of things, variations of different defenses and schemes. So he glazed Caleb Downs for a few seconds there in his interview. I mean, who wouldn't? But yeah, kind
of hard not to.
I want to know, and also I talked to a friend of mine, and I asked him. I said, you see Matt Patricia, he's smiling more, doesn't have that big beard, lost some weight.
By whatever, Matt Patricia.
Hey, whatever means you gotta do it, buddy, you do it. You're smiling. And he's very excited about being in Columbus. I tagged doing something about him talking about recruiting because he got very giddy about recruiting. And I thought to myself, when you don't have a GM overlooking everything you're doing and picking the players that you want, or the owner picking the players that you're getting, you're able to go out there and see the talent. And plus, this isn't the NFL. You have your hands in almost any big-time recruit, and you have your hands there as much as you want because you're Ohio State. I don't know, man. I think this is going to work. I think it's going to work.
I hope it works. I mean,
no,
I certainly
mind changed, though.
No.
I mean,
nothing has changed, and nothing probably will change until I actually see them get on the field. I do like the fact that he mentioned that they're going to be multiple, which we kind of knew going in, that he was not married to one specific style of defense. But I would be interested to know what base he wants to run, what specific he is, defense he wants to stay in. But maybe that's the point. Maybe he's saying that they're not going to have a base defense. They're just going to play to whatever the matchup dictates for that week. He said all of the right things. He said he wanted to be instrumental in the growing process of 18 to 22-year-old men. He wanted to help them not just grow as football players, but as young men. And again, everything he said was right. And, they asked Ryan Day about how comfortable they were with some of the things in his past. We've talked about it. And he seemed perfectly comfortable. He seemed to have vetted everything that needed to be vetted, and he didn't really think it was too much of an issue, which I guess that part's good. But again, I don't think anything's going to change for me until we get, the season started. CJ Hicks moving to the defensive line. We talked about it. We've been talking about it all offseason. That's a move that they needed to make. He's been screaming that he wanted to be on the edge for a few months. So I'm interested to see what he's able to do with Larry. And, we'll talk about Larry here in a little bit. But, as a whole, I think Patricia, like I said, he said and did all the right things. Now, I want to see how involved he wants to actually be in recruiting. I'm still not thinking Knowles wasn't a huge part of the recruiting as far as making visits. So maybe it's kind of going to be along the same lines for Patricia. But we'll see when things get on the field. So we heard from all the coaches. And I want to hear your take on what Larry Johnson said about his future, because you and I have been speculating about that as well. And when asked about his future, Larry Johnson said, I'm going to coach until God tells me I can't, basically. So he sounds like he wants to keep coaching. And it sounds like, based off that quote, that he wants to coach more than just this year. So, what are your thoughts on what LJ had to say?
Well, usually when they say, until God tells them, until they, kick the can, and life's over with, right? Well, sometimes the Lord has a lot of mysterious ways in working, and that might be through your boss kicking you out of there too. I'm surprised. I would hope this. Ryan Day usually does not wait long. If he needs to make a fire, he usually does it. He's been very, very. I think he's been very. It's very open, and I think we can all see it that Ryan Day has no problem with hiring and firing. He will do it to make sure that the team is, or the program is where it needs to be. Do I think he would do that with Larry Johnson?
No. I think we both agree that he probably needs to.
Yeah, I think Larry's a very strong-willed. He's a strong-willed old man.
Yeah.
And it's hard to. It's hard to take away his philosophy because it works and it has worked. Now it might not be the same as when you had the Bosa's and you had Chase Young. It's been a long time since you got a JTT and a Jack Sawyer in your classes, but you did get Edric Houston. You did. You have shown over the years. You have shown depth there, and we've talked about this too. As much as us fans malign him, the kids love him. Their crews love him. That's what they still come and play for him. So I mean, it is what it is right now. It is what it is.
Kids love him. I don't think either one of us are surprised that he's staying for this year. I mean, based on the coaching carousel and the moves that were made, we were pretty positive he was going to be back for this season. I can't say I'm excited that he had that quote. And, it seems like the Ohio State fan base at large is split on him as well. It seems like there's a certain segment of the base that wants him to keep coaching for as long as he can. Mm-hmm. And some of us who want him to possibly, move on. And again, he's been pretty darn successful. He's won 2 national championships. And he has a lot of first-round picks that he's developed. But it does seem like his best days are behind him at this point. So, I'm perfectly fine with him coaching one more year. I'm a little surprised he didn't want to ride out on top, winning a national title under 2 different head coaches. That'd probably be the perfect time to hit the hay, especially when you're, the age that he is. But he clearly has a calling to coach, in his mind, and he wants to do it as long as he can. I think as long as he can will probably be this year. I do think unless they have like an unreal defensive line this year, that Day will probably look to, move on next season. I mean, that's probably for the best. And, we've talked about it. Mm-hmm. Larry has done a fantastic job in his Ohio State coaching career. I mean, take nothing away from the man. Like I said, he's produced multiple. I mean, you just named a whole list of guys who were 5-star recruits who he was able to land and develop in NFL players. So, all good things must come to an end. And I do think that end will probably come next year. If it doesn't, then we're going to have more concerned Ohio State fans. But again, we'll see what the defensive line looks like under Patricia. And I'm really curious to see what he does with CJ Hicks. With him as an edge guy.
CJ Hicks can be I like the winning piece on that defense.
What do you think his ceiling is as an edge guy?
Like All-American type of.
So you think you mean All-American talent?
Yeah, I asked this question on X the other day. Most people said no. And I asked, do you think Ohio State will have 3 guys over 8.5 sacks next year? And I do. I think there's a chance Ohio State has three guys that go 8.5, or at least 8, but more. And so I think that he's going to excel in that position. I think he's showed in small areas and glimpses that he can be. But he has the athletic build. I would liken him to like a smaller Abdul Carter. I think he can be that, just a smaller version of him. So, and I would imagine he's gonna.
That's a high bar.
No, I mean in terms of what he can be. And I'm not saying he's saying he can hit it. It'd be like.
I mean, don't you think he would have seen flashes of that in the 3 years he's already been in the program?
Yeah, I think he can be that in terms of just. I don't mean like the same level, but in terms of being a really athletic guy, maybe a little bit undersized. But I would have to imagine by the season he's gonna be about 240, because he can't be. Yeah, he's gonna have to be between 240 250. So
you don't have to worry about players gaining weight in this program. That won't be a problem.
No, you really don't. But no, I think he's gonna excel there. I think he's gonna give the defense a different look. And also in certain situations, he can still play linebacker. It's not like he's god awful. He's just not the best at it.
No, yeah, I don't think his ceiling is quite as high. I mean, I think he could be an all Big Ten performer. I mean, probably second team is probably where he could slot in if he does, pretty well. We just haven't seen it from him. Like, he's had 3 years to flash, and I was a huge CJ Hicks fan coming out of high school. I mean, his high school tape was ridiculous. I thought he was going to be a really good player, and he just hasn't quite panned out to that. Now, I do think the move to edge is going to work for him. Like, I think he's going to be better. Like, there's no doubt about that. I think he's much better used as an edge rusher. And Larry actually talked about making Hicks not just a situational runner. Like, he wants to develop him into a 3-down lineman. And I'm interested to see that process, because with him being up front, he struggled in space at the linebacker spot. So when you're up front, you're not tackling as much in space. So I'm interested to see how quickly they are to bulk him up so he can, make some tackles there in the run game as well as the passing game. So that's something that will interest me. So got this comment. With the arrangement spring ball, do you think Day sticks with position OTAs? I think Day is changing a lot of things, specifically in the spring. He actually mentioned that basically a lot of the guys who are veterans aren't going to be doing a whole lot in the spring. He wants to prioritize rest for those guys. So Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, Davison Igbinosun, those guys on defense, you're not going to see a whole lot of them. On offense, you're probably not going to see a whole lot of – I mean, you might see some of Jeremiah just because he's a freshman and he's younger than a lot of the guys that they had, but –
But you won't see him a lot. You won't see him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of know what he is at this point, too. So, Carnell Tate, another guy. There's some guys up front. So, it's definitely going to be a different spring experience. And, unfortunately, I think this is kind of the way that it's going to go. We're not going to get the traditional spring game anymore where we get to see these guys, fly around and actually tackle someone for the first time in however many months. So, just the season is too deep now. It's the season used to end, first week of January. Now it's getting third week of January, and they're playing 17 games in some cases. So that's just the way I think it's going to be.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. Clearly, I think Ryan Day is running this more like an NFL organization now, and a lot of the players, you're not going to see them. Especially in the spring showcase, he's saying there, some guys will show out there with the 7-on-7 portion of it. But when it comes to the actual contact, things like that, you probably won't see a lot of them.